Welcome, Vols and Lady Vols, to Power T Talk. From the Cathedral of Neyland Stadium to the fanatical landscape of college sports, we're breaking down the plays, the players, and the pride of the Southland. I'm Daniel, your host, here with my comrade and co-host, Zach. Grab your orange and white. Let's run through the T. It's time to give our all for Tennessee. This is Power T Talk. Couple W's stacking up for the basketball team, just as we all predicted. We were never worried it would go any other direction besides that.
Yeah, that's a good way. But I felt pretty good about the Ole Miss game, although, we talked about how college basketball has become a chore to watch. That first half was a chore. It was a chore-like. But 4 in a row, which in today's modern SEC, I don't think can be taken for granted, and handled business against Ole Miss. Nate had, finally looked like a top 5 pick in that second half. Like, it was really impressive. We talked about them beating Georgia, overtime tough win. They handled Auburn. It was closer than the score indicated. I never really felt like that game was ever truly close. I felt like they had a good handle on that. And then Mississippi, they took care of the second half. And last 2 games they won without Okpara. And there might be a little bit of a Patrick Ewing theory with him, because Estrella getting 30 minutes a game has made this team better. And Carey not getting 25 has made this team better. And it feels like they finally kind of figured out the rotation. Nate's playing great. Boswell's playing great. 4 in a row, and, that's 5 out of their last 6. And, they're kind of peaking.
For a team that the thing we've come back to multiple times is, like, offense just isn't – it goes a little droughty sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
The accidental, instead of mostly a defensive presence at this position, you have mostly an offensive presence, and the offensive rebounding doesn't really go anywhere in that regard, and you have tough enough perimeter defenders to make up for it a little bit. It's kind of shifted things around in a good way. Obviously, big picture, you want the presence of Okpara. There can be certain matchups where that is kind of essential, but for a team that needs some scoring, that's the scoring. And again, Nate playing like we knew he could doesn't hurt matters. And last time we talked, I mentioned and you agreed that, there are little tiny stretches where he looks like no one can stop him. We're just seeing more and more of those stretches put together. And at this point, I don't care who the opponent is. Obviously we need to see it on every stage, but if he's going to do it against an SEC opponent who, thought they could talk the talk and they get shut down pretty quickly, I'm fine with that.
Oh, and he had a bad first half. So for him to be able to play as well as he did in that second half and really dominate, just take over the game. And Ole Miss is not a good basketball team. I don't think we're ever going to pretend that. But the fact that they were able to go to him in the second half and him not going to shell. And whatever you want to say about Nate, he has not been afraid to shoot at any point this year. He has been willing to shoot the ball. But there have been times where in the first half he takes 8 shots, and then in the second half it seems like he goes away from it. This game, it was not. And, Estrella, man, he looks like he's grown up the last 3 or 4 games, and just you loved seeing it because, I think everyone was so impressed with the fight he showed in the Purdue Elite 8 game against the Ogre, a couple of years ago as a true freshman, and Tennessee felt like everyone fouled out, and it's like, okay, he gets the injury, and then this year he doesn't seem like he's quite there. And now he's becoming a monster. He had 6 offensive rebounds against Mississippi. He's looking tougher on defense. He still gets pushed around a little bit, but he knows how to use his length. He hustles his ass off, and him and Dwayne Brown are just absolutely owning the paint at times, even if it's not just with their scoring, it's just with this offensive rebound. It's incredible. We talked a couple weeks ago, they're on pace to have the highest offensive rebounding percentage since 2011. It's gone up in the last 2 weeks. They're over 45%. They rebound 45% of their own misses. And they're not even like a terrible shooting team. They're not a good one, but they're not like awful at it. So you add that combination and you're in for a dogfight against this team.
Like I said, it has to be so unpleasant to play us. I don't know.
Oh,
And
I know.
we talked about how it is a long season. Like people have to find their roles. It wasn't just going to come together right away. And it's not me saying that it's only up from here and, they're going to rock it up to the top 5 ranking. That's not really what I'm saying. But I am saying that like the sort of valley we were in, it was part of the team coming together. And like we can
Hmm.
be frustrated about that if we want, but we just know that is what happens in a longer season. And so I just we said in our preseason analysis, one thing we agreed on was this team's going to be better in March than it is right now. And then we have the Houston win, and it seemed like, oh, they're ahead of schedule. They're getting there. Things are coming together. And then really had to back off of that excitement a little bit. But we're kind of back to this team's going to be better towards the end of the season, the beginning of the season. And that is what you have to have in college basketball nowadays. You have to have, hey, we're throwing a bunch of dudes together and it's going to look messy a little bit and then it's going to look better. And I think we've got that a little bit.
The other thing I would mention too, Boswell's playmaking, which has gotten better as well, has added a little bit of a dimension they didn't have in the early part of January and December. And it's 3 or 4 assists per game, and you're like, oh, that's not a lot. But it actually is when you consider how much Jacoby's had to handle the ball and create
Yeah.
something out of nothing. And Boswell, you talk about a guy that just, you're like, man, I just don't see it as a freshman, right? Like you saw some talent, he's behind Zakai and Jemai, and Lanier. Like, good luck trying to crack that rotation, right? But you're like, man, I just don't really see it. And I mean, this is a guy who comes in against Mississippi. He puts up 10 points. He gets 8 free throw attempts. He has 8 total boards, 5 assists, 3 steals. I mean, he just kind of does it all. He fills the gaps for him. And now he's creating a little bit in the paint, getting some easy buckets for his teammates. And that's just making this team just a little better. And they haven't like greatly improved, but they just get a little better every game. And that is something that is extremely valuable with a team this young. And I mean, Tennessee's still playing. I mean, they're playing 4 true freshmen. They're playing a true sophomore, right? They're playing Carey, who's a transfer guy that came in, because Lepsy was a transfer guy. Estrella didn't play last year. So every game they just keep getting a little better, keep looking, adding to stuff. And even then, they're still not even shooting like that great. Gillespie could probably even hit more shots than he does now. Nate, we know, is starting to hit those shots. So there's room to grow. So I don't know if this is a Final Four team. I think that's a little early, but I'm feeling a lot better about them than I did, I would say, even after the Kentucky loss, where it's just like, or the Florida loss. I mean, after the Florida game, it's like, man, is this team going to be a top 8 seed at this point? And now they're back in the top 25 and they're top 20 in the country, according to KenPom.
I think the the Boswell thing and like how he's finally kind of finding his role. Last year when it was like he's sneaking in minutes and he's not looking amazing, like he almost looks like he wasn't even filling up the stat sheet. He was kind of filling minutes, really. And I don't even mean that as a negative thing. It's just what it was. Looking back, it's a little bit more the fact that he was even getting minutes with that guard rotation says more than like how quality the minutes were. It's like sometimes
Yep.
in Major League Baseball, someone will have like a debut season when they're 19 or 20 and they'll hit 229 and you'll be like, oh, I mean, should we even be impressed with that? It's like, no, just the fact that they were given playing time at that age, at that level, and I'm not comparing, the pros, et cetera, but just the fact that they were even allowed to go do it tells you
Right.
that they have promise. And so the fact that he was even cracking a little bit of that rotation last year with the guard play that we had, maybe that says that he had the potential to find a rhythm with this stuff. He's still not the one you want handling the ball, especially if teams are pressuring, but he's finding his way in the half court a little bit more. And so I think that you and I talked about this all of this could be dampened really quickly if we throw out a stinker at Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
I think we want a little bit of revenge for the last performance there. I think we can say we are better than them and we should go win. And Lexington is just annoying when you don't win. And so if we go back to some bad habits and lose, it's going to feel a little bit different. But if we go win, then all of a sudden you're probably winning the next few, and you're really setting yourself up for something nice.
Just looked at Boswell's Ken Palm numbers. Like, he's shooting 18 of 32 from three. Like, brother, let it fly, man.
I know.
Like,
be late for the flight, Boswell.
Exactly, man. Let it go. Yeah, the Kentucky game. So, Kentucky is fine. They're 31st Ken Palm. They're going to make the tournament. Tennessee, it's literally a coin flip game if you look at the advanced numbers. Kentucky and Tennessee. It almost feels like it's a turning point. Maybe it's a little aggressive because I don't know if Akpar is going to play. I assume Abram's going to be available, but he might be out of the rotation at this point. So with Akpara, even if he doesn't play, you go into Kentucky, you win that game, get a little revenge, you go 5 in a row, and then you're favored for the next 3 after that.
Exactly.
And then it's Vanderbilt in Nashville, which is usually a 50-50 split. You're setting yourself up all of a sudden to maybe win the conference. Like, it's early, but it's not impossible. If you win this Kentucky game, all of a sudden you're talking about winning the conference and getting you a top 3 seed to be 100%. And considering where we were a month ago, it almost is hard to believe.
Very hard to believe. And again, it's like they're going to have to go earn it, but
right,
going and winning the conference isn't a complete dream world. Like, it's not like one of those things where if we rattle off 17 in a row, we might have a chance. It's like, no, we're a Kentucky win away from really being in the mix there because our Texas A&M has some tough stuff left. We know Florida has some tough stuff left. At least put yourself in the mix and then go grab 29 offensive boards against somebody and win.
Looking at SEC standings, so dumb. 10 teams with 5 wins. It's like, this is, I know part of it is just like, there's not truly a great team in the SEC this year like we saw last year where Florida and Auburn and Tennessee were 3 of the top. I think you make case 3 of the top 5 teams in the country. But even still, it's just this expanded conference stuff is so dumb. So dumb we're halfway through the conference here.
So
we're
dumb.
like, 10 teams can win the conference. But
it's nice to see Oklahoma and South Carolina doing their part.
Yeah, true. Thank you guys for at least not being good. At least there's 3 bad teams in the SEC, including Ole Miss. I would say, too, something we, really, if you look at their losses this year, the only one you could really be like, that's inexcusable was Syracuse. Illinois got the best offense in the country. Kansas, I know they didn't have Peterson that game. They had a couple other, like some foul trouble or stuff. 3rd straight game on a conference tournament. I think they were down that they couldn't play in the championship because that stupid ass format. Like, I think that's excusable. Arkansas, they played hard on the road, just didn't quite get the job done. And then they got blown out by Florida, but Florida's a really good team. So you kind of look at it and you're just like, maybe we were a little too hard on them. It's with 4 freshmen having to play with Akpara. It seems like this has been an injury he's been dealing with too. I think this is not something that just flared up. And then you think about Ahmet and just how he had to really work on his game in season. So you gotta say Rick's doing another fantastic job so far. Like, I was a little worried after the Florida game. I'm like, man, is this team actually like listening to him? And I think there was some frustration. You saw in that Florida game, there was a couple of times. And Rick is just, it's so funny with Rick because he doesn't really get too high or too low, but you can literally read every single expression on his face. You could just tell the second half, he's like, they don't listen, so why should I care? Yeah. Like that, it seemed like that was it. And now they've kind of turned that corner. So I'm happy with the team, but we might be having a different conversation if they lose to Kentucky Saturday or they get blown out.
A stupid one. Yeah. There's a way for it to be really frustrating, but this team will fight. And so we'll see if we go into Lexington and make them have a bad night. I always enjoy doing that.
The big thing I take away is they've essentially, barring crazy injury, they're going to make the tournament
Yeah.
with relative ease. And I think that is still an important barometer at the University of Tennessee. And I think that would be 6 in a row, which would tie the record, which is really impressive.
Oh, that's a good poll. That's awesome. And again, like we can talk about higher expectations than that. I'm fine setting higher expectations than that, but we got to think about what it would feel like otherwise. I don't know. We can always go to like, we're supposed to be this, we're supposed to be that, but like, guys, we could have lost that Kentucky game and then lost that Alabama and that stupid situation and then dropped one to Auburn to Stephen Pearl. Like it could be way less fun right now. So I give them props.
I do too. I'm happy with the team. And like I said, I still think there's room for improvement. I'm just very curious when Akpara comes back how that's going to play out, because it's Brown and Estrella. They're not perfect, but they're playing their ass off on both ends. And Akpara, yes, he's a good defender, but he is not taking the steps we were hoping from previous year. And you just wonder if maybe Akpara might be better as like a 15-minute game bench player at this point and just rely on Estrella and Brown and a little mix of carry. I also would say I think part of the reason this team's better is they finally stopped like banking the half-court offense on Jalen Carey post-ups. They still run them, don't get me wrong, but it has decreased over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think Akpara being, again, a little more like rotation depending on health, and hopefully he's back, also makes it like less of a threat free throw wise towards the end of the game if there are other people comfortable being in those big moments, although he might be in for defense and rebounding. And just a little bit less of long stretches with a guy who can really only create off of pick and roll or off of a putback. I don't know. It's nice to have variety in the paint. And he limits that just a little bit, even if he brings a lot of other stuff to the table. So
yeah, he doesn't have that Gumby style hook shot that Estrella has, where I'm like, does that not hurt his back when he shoots that? But it goes in a lot.
I don't even know how you practice that shot, but he sure got it down.
I don't know either. It's kind of, it's very funky. Like I said, like, it reminds me of a Gumby, like just looking at Gumby and shooting a hook shot. That it's effective as hell. And, you know, this team, I will say, they seem to be able to really finish at the rim. Gillespie aside. Gillespie might be the only funny enough. And Nate's getting a lot better at the rim. So I think that's also helping.
I love it. And we've got some football news as well. Seems like we're always going to have, I don't know if we even have news. We have maybe news. Might have news. We might have.
I mean, something did happen.
Yeah. And so give them the update, I guess. Yeah. Give them the update and then we'll think about how we feel about it.
Joey Aguilar took himself away from the Pavia case, which I think Pavia is doing draft stuff. So I think that was basically dead. He refiled in Knox County and he got a temporary restraining order to play college football in 2026.
Yep. Let me say a couple things.
Yeah, I'll let you go.
One, okay, the Pavia thing first. He has been doing these all-star games. He's been doing all-star games specifically to try and build his draft profile. He apparently had a couple moments where he looked okay and crisp to receivers. Like, he is going that direction. And so that's part of the reason you pull away from that case. The other thing, and I think there are reasons that the Alabama situation was a little bit more blatant and a little bit more disgusting in terms of how we want our system to operate from a hearings and courts perspective. But the kind of phrasing of, yeah, they seem to be shifting gears and shifting their strategy or shifting their direction to get a judge that might be more friendly to this case or have certain thoughts about this case. I don't want to burst anyone's bubble, but that's just how the world works.
Well, not only that, is this Pavia thing has been slow played like crazy as well. And I think part of the thinking is if we get it into Knoxville and we make a kind of like we did with the Bediako thing, where it's like, oh, look at him take advantage of it, then we can get an official ruling.
Yeah.
That is
actual movement
going quicker. Yeah. Like, we got to know, like, spring practice starts in 6 weeks. Yeah. Like, we kind of have to know what's going to happen here. And we were supposed to get an answer a couple of weeks ago, didn't get it. So I think that's also part of it.
Like, press the issue at a certain point. Right. And so I think you're right that some people read it as like, oh, we're stacking the deck. It's like, no, we're just making the deck move at a certain point. We're
It's
making
also
someone play a card.
right. Well, it's also different from Bediako. Like Joey did not go play in the UFL for 2 years
Exactly.
and then want to come back. So like I think that needs to be said. And I still don't
It's
I
weird
still
still.
don't I still don't know what the strategy was from the coaching
Oh,
staff
yeah.
in terms of like the Levitt push. If this was like the hope, I don't know.
I
I
don't
don't
know
know if they
either.
just like, I'd rather not take the chance in court. Maybe that's what it was. And they were just like, if we get Sam Levitt, great. Joey could go play somewhere else
Maybe
and
they had
everyone's
like a
happy.
very low amount of faith in the Pavia case itself. Like they
Right.
were hearing that it was like, hey, we're taking a shot here, but it's just a shot.
Right. But if he's got a temporary restraining order, it's like, is he going to be able to, like, he'll be at spring practice and then what happens? Like, if I'm Heupel, it's like, okay, I probably know where this is going to lean by the time spring practice starts, but it's a court system. The NCAA does still have some authoritative body. Like, what if you're halfway through the spring, Joey's taking all the ones, and they're like, nope, he's not playing
Yeah.
this year. It's like, oh, cool. We just wasted half spring practice with a quarterback that's not playing.
You know, it would be, I don't mean this to be negative, but it would be a very Tennessee thing to do.
Hey, that's also fair.
It would be like, that
I,
would be the funniest thing ever, that our spring practice standout, number one guy, just for some funky timing reason, literally stopped being part of the team. It just seems so
yes.
typical.
And it happened last year. So it's had to be 2 springs in a row. I guess the other part of it, too, is I don't know if this is the right way I would go into 2026. I think I had been happy with the conclusion that George and Brandon were going to duke it out. They brought in Staub from Colorado to be depth, literally just a depth piece, and then we'll just go from there. And now you bring Joey back, and it's like, okay, that probably makes your team better, I think, especially in the first 6 weeks. Definitely makes it better, but I don't know if that's the best thing for the program at this point, and I don't know the right answer.
Yeah, I know that all of college football now for certain program types are like who has the most effective stopgap, and like that is, it's a bad. I don't mean to say it like that, because I don't mean to like just treat these players as like entities in a system, but like, I mean, the way Miami's done it for a couple of years, the way they're doing it again next year, the way a lot of other programs operate, is like, just okay, who's the most effective, who's the least disastrous person we can bring in here, and sometimes you get a really great one. But a lot of times it's like we're just taking on water, and who's going to help us shove water out of the boat the most in the portal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean to revert back to some dream world where you like slowly develop a quarterback and he takes his licks and then, comes back the next year and blah, 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 blah. But if we don't really know, if we're not really secure on what the answer is going to be, it's just going to be a crazy thing to do to have him. He has to take the 1 reps in spring if he's around.
Right.
And
He has
so
to.
presumably if he's around, he's the one through the end of fall. And maybe that's our answer, but do we know that?
And I would say if like they gotten this figured out in December and they're like, we're bringing Joey back, I'd be fine with it. I'd be like, cool, let's go. It's just this uncertainty with it. And, we talked a couple weeks ago, like, okay, how do we feel about Joey getting essentially a 6-year college football, 2 years at JUCO, 4 of FBS? And we talked about that, and we don't have to relitigate the conversation. But at some point, I got to think George and Faison are not like thrilled.
Yeah.
Like they're competitors, and it's probably, and I get it. They've got NIL stuff too, so I understand. But I don't think this is exactly a great situation for them either. They're
No.
probably thinking based off everything when Levitt didn't come back, like, okay, one of us is going to win the job, and now Joey is still fighting for this. And I would, if he's moving it to Knoxville, that means it's the staff's wanting him. It's not like he's said like, oh, hey, I'm not coming back to Tennessee or anything either. Like he's coming to play football at the University of Tennessee, or else this wouldn't have been moved to Knoxville.
Yeah.
So I think too, it's like you're running. Not that I think Joey is a bad player, person, anything like that. I just feel bad for George and Faison because it's maybe more for George than Faison. I don't think Faison was planning on playing, but it's like, man, at some point, it's like this is a lot of drama, and it's nobody's fault.
And it's also
It's
like
like
so
nobody's
much of
really
it comes
pitching.
down to like these massive unfounded critiques of like Georgia's development and Georgia's prowess and Georgia's ability to handle the position when we don't know any of that. Like we don't know any of that. And
Yes.
so the way I've been sitting with it lately, and by lately I mean like the past day because it's always changing. I think I texted you a couple days ago and said I just never want to hear about this again. Like just let me know what happens at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I genuinely mean that. Like, I don't mean to say that it's not important. I don't mean to say that we don't have thoughts about 5 to play 4 and things like that. Like, I think there are better ways to do this. But as far as like the ticky-tack minutia of how this is moving, I kind of just want to know what happens at the end. But this is one of those moments where, like, as a fan, my I don't know, my job as a fan is to support whoever ends up with the job in a way, to a point, and also to like I'm a I'm not even arguing with anyone here, but like I'm allowed to just have a preference that instead of like extending the silliness of this extended time playing college football to its max possible extent, we just say, hey, it's going to be George with Faison backing up.
Mm-hmm.
That is not me saying at all that that is going to make us a better offense. It's not me saying that our offense is going to look the exact same. It's not me saying that that's an objectively better outcome for the program. But it's not really my job to decide on like the best path to an objectively better outcome. Like we pay Heupel and others a ton of money to do that. Just from a fan perspective, I'm like, I just want to know who it is and root on that guy and not stretch something we already don't like being stretched that much, not to stretch this to the fullest possible extent. And I think to go back to something we've talked about a lot recently, the Bediako situation. I imagine there are some Bama fans out there who, yeah, they want this talented fella to play on their team because it makes them a better basketball team. But I imagine a ton of people were like, this is really stupid. I should be allowed to just say, hey, this is dumb. I don't care if it makes us better or not. I think it's stupid. And I don't know. It's the same as like when you have a Major League Baseball team and it's like, if there's someone you just don't want on your squad, it's like, no, but they would make us better. It's like, that's fine. I don't care. This is the team that I'm interested in rooting for. And this is an unfair way to talk about it because Joey seems awesome. And he seems like a lovely guy. And he was wonderful when he was at App in terms of like fan favorite. And he seems like he's like ingratiated himself to the fans as well in Knoxville. Lovely in every way. But I just don't want to squeeze and stretch this thing just because we can,
Mm-hmm.
even though that's how you ensure that you have the best football team. I don't know. It's a weird back and forth.
You brought up a really good point about like who do you want to watch? And Joey's different than the example I'm going to use. So there was about 12 hours of Draymond Green to Detroit Pistons rumors that had me shaking and quivering and throwing up in a corner. And I was like, yeah, they might be a better basketball team. And I literally do not give a crap.
Yeah.
I will not, I will watch less. I don't want to watch him. I don't want to deal with him. Joe, this is not the same situation with Joey.
Not even close. It's not that comparison. It's just the closest
It is
comparison we've got.
on the top of my mind. And I also thought about Cam Newton's famous "we only give that grace to young players" rant, that he had. And it's just like, do I want to see 25-year-old Joey Aguilar throw into double coverage in an SEC game again? It's like, I don't. Like, that's just not something that is beneficial for anyone. And it's not a criticism of Joey. That's just the type of quarterback he is. I'd rather he be a gunslinger than be afraid. Don't get me wrong. But
Yeah. I
at
don't
some
know.
point,
None of this is a comment on what we think of Joey as a player or a person, really. It's just
right.
a matter of like, just because that is going to make us 17% better in offensive EPA doesn't mean we absolutely have to sign up for that no matter what.
It's like we talked about, would we rather be 8-4 and feel awesome about
Yeah.
Georgia or Faison in 2027, then go 9-3 with Joey,
and have like
and
no
maybe
answers,
10
and we roll through it again. Yeah,
or 10-2, and you grab the 12 seed in the college football playoff.
best case
And you
scenario.
lose. Yeah, best case scenario. I it and usually in college football, you go the opposite. You just say, well, give me the most wins, but it's a different, as we move more towards a pro structure, it's a different type of situation now where I can't say that. Like I think at this point I would like to go into and I know it's kind of hypocritical, but because Joey would be a returning starter. I'd like to go into 2027 with a high upside option. And whatever you want to say about Nico, going into 24 was fun.
Yeah,
Like 24 being like, hey, do we have, and I know it's crazy to think about this now, like, do we have a 1-1 potential guy here? And, that was really fun to think about with that upside. And I almost wonder if I'd rather just have that, which is not how not how Josh Heupel should be thinking, because he makes $9 million a year. And if he
to
pulls
make
off
the team as incrementally better as possible in every moment.
yeah, and if he has another 8-5 season, all of a sudden, that becomes a different conversation for him, right? Because I know Josh has a pretty big buyout, but I think he'd rather coach. So there's not a right answer. And also, this is all the NCAA's fault. It's all their fault. If they had any spine, or if they hadn't lost all of their, I'm trying to think of the right way to put it. If they had any sort of ability and foresight to fix all this stuff when they could
Yeah,
have done it, then we
if
wouldn't
they had
have this
like not,
problems.
they were happy to meddle in all the things that didn't help, and then they wouldn't
Right.
actually meddle and settle things in the things that were going to matter.
Right. Like, and also, like, how many times is Trinidad Chambliss going to appeal? Like, this is like the third time. And they're like,
Yeah,
he's been denied again. And it's like, is he going to do it a fourth time? Like, it's all dumb. And it's like, I don't know. I just don't like the fact that we're like, oh, what's the court going to decide for our quarterback situation? It's just,
yeah.
even though it's, we had those days, right, where it was a different reason why the court was deciding, but I don't want to do that. It's just not fun.
No, it's not. And this stuff is like, I can't think of a good baseball comparison right now, but I just can't think of a player who like I wouldn't want my team to add, but would help us because my team is. I don't know if there's a 48 win player out there, which is what my team would need. But
I, I'm not thrilled about Framber Valdez on the Tigers.
there you go. I
That's
mean,
what
that's
you
a good example. I think it's a good
right.
example of like, but the Tigers' job is to add Framber Valdez.
Mm-hmm.
Objectively, good job by them. But you're allowed to be like, ugh.
I mean, that's how sports is. It's about
Yeah.
cheering for people you want to cheer for. I mean, I think about my favorite teams, and just like living with those guys essentially. You watch those guys 3 hours a night, 2.5 hours a night, whatever, and how much fun is pro sports wise. And it's like now, and I like Joey, I do, but it's like, man, do I really want a 7th-year college player at quarterback? Like, I just think about like all those 6th-year guys I've seen the last couple of years because of COVID. Be like, really, dude? Like, you're 25 still playing college ball? Like, at some point, it just kind of defeats the purpose, and I don't want to have the debate about amateurism or anything, but I'm just against a 25-year-old playing college football. Chris Winkie won a Heisman at 28, and it's the most ludicrous thing ever, and it still pisses me off. And I was like 6 when it happened. So, like, at what point are we going to get to that?
Yeah, I'm very much and again, like if the ruling goes a certain way, yeah, Joey's part of our team. It's not that we're, taking on the enemy or something. I love Joey this year.
No,
I cheered him maybe more than anybody. But I think back to like the Nationals playoff runs and like the heartbreaking losses is where my brain goes to. And in those moments, you could have told me, hey, going into this series, you could have Brandon Phillips at second base instead of Danny Espinosa. And Brandon Phillips is going to give you they're both good defensively. Brandon Phillips is a little bit better with the bat. He doesn't have as good a bat at platoon splits. He's going to give you a 13% better chance to win this series against the Giants. And flash forward 5 games, losing that series against the Giants was miserable.
Mm-hmm.
But at the start of that series, I would have said, screw you, we're going in with our guys.
Yeah.
And it's like right now, somebody could tell you as a Tigers fan, hey, we're going to take Scoobs away, and you're going to get Paul Skeens for this playoff series. Not by a ton, but objectively, that would give you a better chance to win that playoff series. But you might be
Yes.
like, screw you, we're going down with Scoobs.
And it kind of harkens back to the whole transfer portal and NIL part, which is unfortunately dominates this conversation because it dominates the sport. Let's think about this Tennessee defense. 7 new starters from transfer portal, probably, maybe 8. And sure, if Tennessee's defense is better and they win the SEC, am I going to be bitching about it? No. But in the back of my head, it's going to be like, okay, it's a Band-Aid, right? It's what makes like pro sports special. And I think about just bringing it back to the Pistons, watching Cade Cunningham go through a 28-game losing streak, and how special this run has been, where they're the 1 seed. And I never would have thought that in a million years. And it's like, okay, well, what if they traded Cade for Luka, and Luka was doing this? Yes, I would be enjoying it.
It'd be lovely.
Lovely, trust me. But it'd be like, it just wouldn't be the same. It's like the Pistons trade Jaden Ivey, and they couldn't get anything for him. And it was kind of, I'm like, man, that sucks. Because it's one of your guys that you drafted, and it's like one of the freshmen you watch. And it's like, that's why I love, like, Mike Matthews being like, yeah, he hit the transfer portal and be like, no, okay, I'll stay. And now he's getting better. Braylon Staley did the same thing. And watching those guys is going to be even more fun next year, because those are people you're watching and growing with. And we're losing that in college sports just in general. This mercenary for hire situation.
Yeah, I think the reason I'm like trying to come up with all these metaphors and all these comparisons to like push back or analyze this is because I think the tone around the Joey thing has been, if you want anything but whatever positive ruling we can get, you're wrong. Like and again, maybe I'm just interpreting that way, but the sense I've gotten is like the kind of, you're a bad fan if you don't want this to happen because he is going to make us a little bit better in the coming season. And I don't disagree that he would. But it's like, you're also allowed to just say, I don't want to track the, minute by minute of this proceedings. And I just want to have our quarterback and go in and see if we can go win some games.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the tone around all of it has been like, well, what are you talking about? It is this program's job to do everything in their power, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, that's fine. I'm sure they are doing everything in their power. But as somebody who, talks about this stuff on a podcast and thinks about it constantly and loves to analyze it, I can still pause and be like, tell me what happens at the end. Let me know who I'm cheering for, because I'm going to cheer for him.
It's like we're trying to work it up to do a recruiting episode on the incoming recruiting class for Tennessee. And every time we start to get into it, it's like, why?
Yeah.
66% of these kids are going to be gone in 2 years.
And that combined with like the analysis of these recruiting sites has trended a little bit more towards the portal, and the inconsistencies on how they keep with their ratings are weirder than ever. It's just like, oh my gosh, what are we doing?
Right. It's like, I used to watch film on these kids, and now it's like, why would I, other than like Tristan Keys and Faison, and a couple other guys, it's like, okay, well, yeah, that's great. They got that 3-star lineman, and like he's got nice offers and stuff like that. And it's like, played 2 years, he's gone. So what's it matter? Like, why would I want to waste my time doing that? So it all kind of harkens back to this idea. It's like I just wish, to like kind of wrap it up, there was a way to do this, and we've all in college sports has taken the way to hell instead of like the road less traveled or whatever, whatever I'm trying to think of. It's just,
I get what you mean.
It's just literally took the worst options you could do consistently, when all of this could have been resolved with like some common sense and some unity.
Yeah. I mean, any forethought whatsoever would have been
Mm-hmm.
massively helpful here, and they
Instead of
just decided
spending
not
millions
to.
of dollars trying to fight the Supreme Court and losing a 9-0 case.
So, with that in mind, if we're really going to extend silly season, I'll start with the second question. I like this prompt that you came up with because I hadn't thought about it, and I'll kind of talk about why. But do you think there will ever be a moment? This is your question. I'm just stealing it. Do you think there will ever be a moment where trades happen in college sports?
If it ever gets collectively bargained, I maybe.
You think so?
Like if you get it collectively bargained, so you know how you can trade slot money in Major League Baseball,
Mm-hmm.
trade draft slot money, international money, whatever. I wonder if like every D1 team, if they like did like 80 teams, you get 30 million to spend on a roster. If we might start seeing players be traded for like slot money, like collectively so like you collectively bargain a salary cap, every team gets 30 million spent on their roster, and then you're like, hey, we're going to trade you this quarterback that makes $8 million for $4 million extra money because we have this freshman we're paying too, and we really like him. I don't think it's impossible. I don't think it will happen. But I also, like, you told me 10 years ago this is what we would have.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean a kid who played 2 years at JUCO and 3 years of FBS football is applying for a 6th year? What are you talking about? Like, then I wouldn't have believed you. So, like, I doubt it. I don't think it will ever happen because you still technically do go to school. But if it's collectively bargained, I don't know. I could see it. Or if you could like carry over your NIL money. So it's like, you could spend 30 million, like how you do an NFL salary cap, right? You can carry over your unused cap to the next year. Like what if you like could do that? Like if you're a first year coach and like, we're going to use 15 million and then we're going to carry the 15 million we don't use to next year. And you could maybe trade or acquire that stuff. I don't think it's impossible.
I would hate
That might
that
be the
so
breaking
much.
point. We talked last week about what's that breaking point. Maybe that would be it.
I don't know. I think about this in terms of like what it looks like right now to figure out the landscape for NBA trades.
Mm-hmm.
And if we had
Yeah.
what would almost certainly be an even more convoluted landscape for college football.
Oh, it would be a disaster. Yes.
I think it maybe would start in like a very like simple way, like you said, but somebody would throw their weight around and make it stupid pretty quickly.
Right.
It would suck so bad. And like you'd be doing it with players that you have even less information about, that are even less projectable, even less secure. Like it's one thing to like have to get really into the nitty gritty about a player who's been in the NBA for 6 years and basically everything about. It's an entirely other thing to start doing this with like sophomore offensive guards.
Could you imagine like reading the tweet? Brandon Sorsby traded the Tennessee Volunteers for Mike Matthews, Lance Hurd, and $5 million in NIL space.
And it's like the deal almost fell apart at the last minute, but they added Bennett Warren to the deal and made the money work. Like, oh my God, kill me. I think I don't know why we didn't think of this last week, but I think I would stop paying attention.
That would do it. That was continuation.
There's absolutely no way I could even feign interest in that. And it's not that I don't care about the sport. There's absolutely no way I could feign interest in that because it would lead to people talking about these trades as if they have an objective evaluation of it or a grade for it, when it would be the most difficult thing to grade I can think of in sports.
Now, I think something that could be more likely is in Europe, they sign kids and then they loan them out.
Yeah.
I could see that. So like Mike Matthews, who didn't play much at freshman, how valuable it would have been for Tennessee if he played at Middle Tennessee for a year?
I was going to say and I would have to know a little bit more about the system in Europe and the academies, but the actual thing I could see there is instead of just pilfering the smaller schools constantly, have it be intentional development from the smaller schools. Again, these are like higher ed institutions that we're talking about, so I have no idea what that looks like. I mean, golly. But from purely an athletic standpoint, it's like, why wouldn't well, I don't know, like, I could see a world, like you said, where it's like this guy does not have a spot on our roster right now, but the best thing for him is actually going to be for him to play.
Especially the 105 scholarships.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so you don't get walk-ons anymore, essentially. You lost 15 roster spots where you're used to having 3 deeps and being able to practice all 3 at the same time and everything. So it's like, well, I would rather take these 5 freshmen who aren't playing for me to give them to Middle Tennessee, let them play for a year, and then I'll take these 5 D2 kids that just want to play and say they were a ball for once in their life and that just don't care. And, they'll practice and we'll swap them out next year. And now we've got 14 games under their belt instead of 2. Like, I mean, that I think is more likely than like a trade line or a
And
trade.
if you did that with more, now obviously if you did that with the quote unquote control we have over the portal and things now, it's a terrible idea because it would be like you'd have LSU scouts at Middle Tennessee State games.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there would have to be like
There'd have to be some
contracts
plans and some
Right.
forethought.
Yeah.
But I think like if you had a little bit more control over it from that perspective, I don't have a great argument against it other than like logistics. But like as
Yeah,
far as what works best for the players and the programs, it would make a hell of a lot more sense than a lot of things we do.
I mean, it wouldn't shock me if we get like that. You think about Texas Tech and the money they have, it's like, why wouldn't you do that with Texas State or
Yeah, North
UTEP
Texas,
or
whatever.
something like that? Yeah, exactly. It's just like, hey, this is our loan program. Especially if like somehow you can get like, man, what would the advantage be if you were able, like we see it in basketball where kids graduate or reclassify, you get some kids that graduate high school early and you get them in at 17, especially if we go 5 years eventually. I mean, you talk about a great idea. That would be the one negative is like you still technically only get 4 years, but if it goes to 5, like they're talking about, I mean, I would absolutely look into that.
Well, and again, I'm not trying to speak for anyone in this position because this isn't like we've talked about this, but I think about academic advisors, like athletic advisors on college campuses right now, and the way their heads are swirling like a possessed child in a horror film around transfer portal time and starting, especially in January. The idea that you could have these academies, like pseudo academies set up where it's like, hey, you're going to take a year or 2 of your gen eds at this particular institution. And then the plan is for you to start your major courses or some combination of wherever you are in your pattern at this other institution. I think those advisors would be like, please, God, please.
Yeah. I mean, and at least it would bring back some of the team building part of it.
Yeah.
Like I would absolutely watch Middle Tennessee State games, especially on a Thursday night, if Tennessee has 15 kids that are trying to develop there. Like I absolutely would watch.
I think that it'd be interesting to see what happens from a coaching perspective, like that hotshot coach or hotshot OC who does a really good job with these. It's like, what happens when they want to go coach at Kentucky or whatever?
Mm-hmm. Right,
But,
that'd be the one negative.
But again, like no worse than the stupid crap we do now where you're poaching, you're like behind the scenes telling people not to coach in one of the biggest games of their lives. Like, it's not like we've got it figured out now.
Well, and maybe that's how we would have it survive when they eventually split Division I football or FBS.
That's
football.
The thing is once it actually is pro and semi-pro or whatever.
Right. Because then, like, we'll just be honest, like the 70 schools that are going to get left out in the cold are probably not going to survive if they split it. I mean, they can't support full scholarships. Like, that's not going to happen. So, like, that would be one way to save that type of football, to save the MAC, to save the Sun Belt, and save the Mountain West.
That is one we should dive into more.
Yeah, we need to come up with a system. That'd be a fun over the summer episode.
Yeah, of just like, are we missing something big? And I'm sure we are.
I'm sure there's something in there, but if they start doing multi-year contracts, I'm really curious what happens in the Mensa case. If they say, hey, you have to enforce those, like that's going to be really interesting.
It's so funny that, we know it's there's no structure to it, and it's the wild, wild west. But it's so funny that like all of this BS flying around, and then like the huge problem could be like, no, 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 you actually were enforcing that thing that you very clearly agreed to.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, oh crap, I never thought you were going to do that.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, if you're a college football coach and you just pay $10 million, you can go wherever you want.
Yeah. Last thing, and this is one we touched on a little bit last week. You gave our initial thoughts. We'll see if we've shifted at all in those thoughts. We got Super Bowl 60.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any more thoughts on? I mean, you can give big picture Super Bowl thoughts if you want, but do you have thoughts on any X's and O's of the game as well?
I'm having a very difficult path outside of Sam Darnold implodes, which it's there. That possibility is there. How the Patriots win this game.
I've thought about it a lot this week. And that's partially from it's all there is to talk about right now. I mean, like there's a reason we're starting to really, really get interested in MLB, and obviously college baseball, college softball as well. But it's like it's that, or you're thinking about the Super Bowl, and there's only so much you can do that. But here's the thing. Here's the path I see. If Vrabel does this, and I'm not saying I'm telling him what he should do. He seems like a decent football coach. So the old Belichick thing of we're doubling JSN all game.
Mm-hmm.
This is more complicated than that, but it's like we're erasing him to the extent that you can. And then their number 2 receiver has Gonzalez on him.
Gotcha.
That's muddy already a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that makes it way more muddy is I think if Seattle's vulnerable anywhere, it's interior offensive line. And Lord knows if there's one thing the Patriots can do, it's interior pressure.
When Williams and Barmore are both in the game, they are like a top 5 defense.
And they can do interior pressure without bringing more people.
Correct.
And they somehow, I guess because those guys are good and they have the right linebackers, they can do interior pressure and still stop the run a lot of times this season when they had Williams. And so, again, I don't mean like, oh, just double the best receiver and then get pressure. Like, duh. There's a reason that hasn't worked. Kubiak's pretty good at his job, but the interior pressure is the path I see to the Darnold stinker, more so than him just like the moment being too big or whatever. It's him being like stumbling away from Milton Williams all game that I see him getting a little bit on tilt in a game like this.
Mm-hmm. I think go to the other side of the ball. Where I'm like, how did the Patriots win this game? I just don't, unless Drake May is going to have some design runs.
So I was going to say, he's got to run for 70 yards at least.
Yes. I don't see a way they can get 3 touchdowns. Like, I just, barring defensive
turnovers,
special team. Yeah. I don't think they can sustain enough drives with how good the Seahawks front 4 is and how good their defensive lines played. Now, Mourier, however you say it, that ankle injury does seem legitimate. So maybe Seattle can't play as aggressive. They can't blitz as much. They don't trust their back end as well. But I can't see the Patriots finding a way to put 3 successful, like, good drives together. 3 50-yard drives. I just don't see it.
I think the way they can do it is, obviously we talked about Drake and his legs, legitimate weapon when used properly. This is a game where you don't hold that stuff back, and he's not going to care to take a knock here and there. The combination of they probably have the best punt returner in the league,
that helps.
and May's legs. It's like if special teams cost the Rams the game last week.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you flip that to the other side and the special teams is really cleaned up or even a positive for the Patriots, and you have Drake May's legs, and again, maybe May runs for 16 yards and it doesn't matter, But if he does manage to find some success on that front, I think that's the path to it. I mean, their running backs are pretty unimpressive game to game, I find, the Patriots. I think people have noticed that Diggs has had a little bit of a renaissance at the receiver position, but I don't think he's a huge threat. And I do think the Seahawks are better, but there are specific things the Patriots can do that if it was just any old matchup, if I were a Seahawks fan, I would have wanted to play this game as soon as possible.
That's fair.
It's like let's just let it keep going. Let's just let it keep going. The like sitting and waiting, and I don't know, it would drive me insane right now to think about that interior pressure and think about, like people seem to be kind of waffling on how much faith they have in us, and everyone's talking about like Shaheed's going to return a kick, and like that's no guarantee at all to happen. And I don't know, I'd be a little spooked out if I were a Seahawks fan right now, even if I'd still pick them.
I just don't know if I'm if I'm a Patriots fan, how I'm going to convert like 3rd and 8 against this defense.
That's a good point.
With the offensive line that's shaky. And yeah, Diggs had a little renaissance, but he's not like top 20 wide receiver.
No, he's not.
Like he's not going to be able to consistently win on 3rd down against Woolen and Witherspoon. And their run game is hit or miss with New England. I can't see consistent 3rd down wins for them with how McDonald, and you brought up a good point. Like, hey, I wish we could just, if I'm a Seattle fan, Mike McDonald with 2 weeks against a 2nd-year quarterback.
True.
That feels like, man, that's a lot of pressure. And Vrabel's a very good defensive coach, don't get me wrong, but that's different than 8-year NFL vet Sam Darnold. You know, I just,
yeah.
And Will Campbell's a problem at left tackle for them. And it's just like, I think McDonald's going to single him out, and he's going to run some stunts, and he's going to put pressure on that side, and he's going to win by putting as much pressure on May as he can and make Drake make some throws.
Are you still leaning Seahawks?
Yeah, the other part of it is like, man, we just don't have bad Super Bowls anymore. like I think about the last like 15 years. I think we've had 2 blowouts. The famous, Broncos Seahawks one, and then when the Bucks blew out Brady, and then last year. Like we just don't really have those anymore. But like I think the Seahawks like 2 scores, and I feel comfortable with that.
I was thinking, that was going to be my next question, so I'm glad you went there. I thought I was going to ask, do you think it's going to be a good game? I think there's a formula.
I think it's going to be ugly.
That's the thing. The ingredients are there for this to be pretty boring.
Yes.
Now, you and I really like that kind of football. Like I'm not going to mind if it's 3rd and 12 and Milton Williams forces a throwaway and then they punt. Like, bring it on. It's the last football game of the season. Let's have it. But I'm thinking about like my son who's going to be excited to watch when the game rolls around. There's a chance he's like, yo, this is pretty boring, Dad.
My favorite like prop bet I don't plan on betting is like 0 points first quarter.
Yeah. Just a little bit of tightness and a missed field goal, and you're kind of there.
Yes. Now that makes it harder with the current NFL kickoff rules because you can literally run. These both are pretty.
God, that's
Seahawks
true.
have a really
decent kickers.
So yeah, and enough to where like a 55-yarder is not the end of the world.
That bet could lose in the first 4 minutes of the game.
Exactly, and you're like, oh, JSN just took a 20-yard slant, and now they're in field goal range. You're like, I'm a big dumb boy, but
I don't know how. Obviously, the bets are a lot of people's interaction with this game. I think about if you're betting GM or FanDuel or whatever, and you have these sort of betting oriented podcasts or conversations or, prime ESPN shows, whatever it is, that like their whole segment is like touchdown props.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of the segment, this show that everyone's watching has given out 12 or 13 touchdown props.
Right.
If you're betting MGM, you're like, thank you so much, guys. That's so sweet of you. Because there's going to be 3.5 touchdowns in this game, and somebody's betting 9 of them.
Exactly, yeah, and just having fun clicking buttons and putting $10 down.
I don't have I haven't looked at any of that stuff. I don't know if I'm trying to think. The trendy one I've seen is Shaheed because everyone thinks he's going to pop off.
Right.
Just kind of trying to make a pick there. I would say Travion is gonna get some yards. I have no idea what that number looks like, but I think he's gonna total yards. He'll be over 50.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that could be. I have no clue where that lands in relative to what the books have, and so we'll see. And there's every chance in the world Ramondre carries the ball a bunch of times and they try to play keep away. So we'll see.
So I have a question for you, a little curveball. What's your favorite Super Bowl game? Which one's your favorite?
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to distinguish favorite from most memorable in my brain, and this is interesting for me because I don't
It
really
can be
have.
either one, by the way.
Yeah, most memorable Super Bowl game I can have ever. It's hard to narrow it down to one. I guess the one that popped into my brain first as most memorable is the Titans being a yard short.
Oh, okay. That was like the first like game where I've like sat down and watched beginning to end, and I remember where I was.
Yeah, it was like because I wanted the Titans to win,
Yeah,
and I thought they were, and it was heartbreaking. And again, I'm sure that lands more so. I mean, there's a ton of Titans fans, and who probably are also Vols fans, and so I hate to bring up a sore memory. Panthers Patriots when John Casey kicked it out of
the most
bounds,
underrated Super Bowl.
and as soon as he did it, I knew they were going to lose. And this
At
was
like
like
what,
I
11?
liked the Panthers a lot. Yes, and I was like, I remember I was watching with. May have been with my mom, and she was excited because it was the Panthers, but she's not a huge football fan.
Mm-hmm.
And that ball went out of bounds, and my dad and I just looked at each other and said, "Well, it was a fun season." And she's
Yeah.
like, "Oh no, 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 no!" And I was like, "You don't understand.
You don't
The football
understand.
gods are not going to let this go another direction." What's your favorite ever or best ever?
The most memorable, I still remember the conversations happening at my dad's house during 51. I remember
Which one is
like
that?
talking with the Falcons blown
Oh
off,
God,
which I was definitely cheering for the Falcons, but I still can remember talking with my family and conversations like word for word, being like when they cut it to 16 in the beginning of the fourth, in Hightower forced the fumble. It was like I remember my dad just being like, "I do not think this is a good thing for them. like this is not good." Like my brother just going, "This is the one quarterback you don't want to." Like that's probably the most memorable.
I
I
was
would
watching
say.
that with now that I think about it, I was watching that with grad school buddies at Ohio State,
Mm-hmm.
and just a group of people who like some of them. This is a bunch of nerds, and so some of us really love football, but some of us were like, some of the people in the room were like, "We're here just because it's the Super Bowl. We don't care about the game."
Right.
And a good buddy Andrew, I remember it was 28-3, and I don't know if it was at the point you're talking about or the first time they scored. We looked at each other, and I remember us saying, like, "There's no way, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no way." And then we kind of started to do the math. And it's like, well, technically, there's a way.
Yes.
And as soon as we were like, we couldn't say no completely, we were like, this isn't good.
No. Well, and then you had the Julio catch, which maybe is the greatest catch of all
Oh
time.
my God. I love
And
it so
it's like
much.
and it's just it's the only sporting event I would describe as a horror film.
Oh my God.
Like, yeah, that would be the only that I'm a Lions fan. Like I know losing my whole life, and I could not imagine being a fan of the Falcons and having to live that my entire
No.
like, and it'll never go away either. Like that's the other part of it. Like the other game I was going to mention was the 2014 Seahawks Patriots game, which was just a fantastic football game. And it's one thing to lose important games, like when the Lions lost the NFC title game to the 49ers, nobody really brings it up anymore. Like they blew a
Sometimes you
17-point
lose
lead,
games. Yeah.
but yeah, exactly. It's just like those two losses in particular, like forever in infamy. But I would say too, another just fantastic, like I don't, we have an older audience, I feel like. So maybe I don't think we have very many people listening in their early 20s that just were around for the Giants Patriots first Super Bowl. And it literally felt like the biggest like event in the world when it happened.
Oh yeah.
Like the fact that they lost and just that catch and just the absolute shock of it like actually happening. And I felt like it's the first replay. I know it's not true. I feel like it's the first replay we ever got where we got 8 angles. like I feel like that was the first one, and it just, that game and the narratives and everything, just it's a classic. It's one of
What's
the
the
best.
first Super Bowl you remember? Rams Titans?
The first one I truly remember was Broncos Packers,
Same. Okay.
because
Same exact
it was
range.
it was in San Diego, and I lived in San Diego at the
Oh,
time. So it
okay.
was a really, really big deal. And I love
That's
John
awesome.
Elway. So I remember that one.
I remember that because I love Terrell Davis and I love John Elway. And it was like at
Mm-hmm.
that age, it was like these guys are so cool, and let's go see if they can do it. And
Mm-hmm.
they, those were fun teams. And I pretty much remember every single one besides that. I'm scrolling through.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any I don't remember. The only one I like, because I do the, I haven't done it this year, but I've gone back and like watched like the 20-minute highlights of like
Yeah.
all of them, which is really fun to do. Stuff you can do when you don't have a kid.
Grant would love that. That's a great idea. I might do that.
Now your kid's different. Grant would
Here's
love
the
that.
thing:
But
we're on day 14 of remote learning. Maybe that'll be our assignment tomorrow.
that's American history right there. That's learning American history. The only one I really can't remember anything from is Super Bowl 35, which was the Ravens Giants. I don't remember anything from that.
I was gonna say I
Other
don't
than
really remember
Jermaine, other than there were like 2 returns in that game. Like I think Jermaine Lewis had
Yep.
one right after the Giants had one or something. Like I don't really remember.
The Steelers
that.
beating the Packers. I have no memory of a single play from that game.
I do, because Woodson broke his collarbone.
Mm.
You know what? I cannot tell you really anything from the Seahawks Steelers one other than the Randall L touchdown, and that the Seahawks got screwed. But I can't tell you like what exact events caused them to. So that's another one.
So this is going to lead to, and we're not going to do it now because both of these are worth thinking about and having a list for. We're going to do our favorite / most memorable World Series and our favorite / most memorable NBA Finals.
Yes, that'll be fun.
As we preview the MLB, we'll do a World Series one, and then we'll see when the Finals one fits in with all this basketball stuff. Heading into next week, we'll talk about the Super Bowl if there's notable stuff happens. If our predictions became really tried and true correct, we'll talk about it a lot. If not, we'll just move on. We will give a Tennessee baseball preview next week. Tennessee softball's starting up this weekend, and so we'll talk about that and kind of what their season looks like. And so we'll have some kind of like roster setting, what the expectation should be for both of those teams heading into the season. And then the other big topic will probably be that Kentucky game. And so we've got that looming as well.
A huge transition year for Tennessee baseball. A very different year for Tennessee baseball.
Yeah, I think they have a chance to be pretty darn good. But
maybe the most talented team in the country. And there's this hanging cloud about Elander. Not about Elander, but this hanging cloud of Vitello leaving and going to the Giants in this unprecedented move, and a first-time coach taking over the most talented team in the country. It's kind of crazy.
It's kind of crazy. There's so many things that could pop and have them be just so not fun to play with. Like there's a chance that they're very unpleasant to play against because the lineup doesn't stop.
Right.
But the thing that can take them from, 4th, 5th in the SEC to up there with, in my opinion, LSU and Texas and Mississippi State is the pitching. And the other big thing is that we don't have the pitching guru anymore. And so if things start to look a little hairy on that front, that's the part of the staff changes that make you worry. No way to know. And so we'll talk about it in more detail next week. And we'll also kind of point to some of the teams around the country that we think are going to make some noise. And I'll go ahead and give it away because I lumped them in with LSU and Texas. I think Mississippi State's one of those teams. And so we'll see. And we'll kind of lay out the landscape a little bit next week.
SEC baseball maybe is the best conference in all of college sports.
It might be.
It's that good.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
The main players and then the teams that rise and then like the big players actually living up to the billing. It's pretty dang cool.
I feel like if you took like the all SEC team,
They would beat the Nationals. Yes, we all know.
I was not going to say the Nationals. I was going to say minor league teams, but if you want to say the Nationals,
Well, we'll get more thoughts on that when we do the MLB preview.
Guys, we appreciate you listening. Please give us a like wherever you get your podcast. Give subscribe. YouTube. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on all the big ones. So we appreciate you guys listening, and go Vols.